Good morning and welcome to another United Partners for Human Services workshop. My name is Justin Fitzpatrick and I serve as the Membership and Communications Coordinator for United Partners for Human Services. I am joined by our Admin Coordinator, Jamie Lynn Crosby, and our Director of Strategic Initiatives, LaShawn Gordon. And we are so happy to bring to you Creative Communication Workshop and using creative communication. This workshop will focus on internal and external communication strategies, message formation, audience identification, and goal setting to help guide your organization's success to the next level. We are absolutely elated to be joined by Jamie Van Pelt, the founder and CEO of the Radley firm. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone off to him and we'll get started.
Thanks, Justin. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jamie Van Pelt. A lot of you are very familiar faces, so I don't. That helps me relax a little bit while I'm talking to y'all because I know a lot of you. But when that this meeting is being recorded, message pops on that it's serious. So I gotta now be on my P's and Q's, as my grandmother would say. So I'm thrilled to be here this morning. I'm going to share my screen in just a second. But I kind of wanted to just give you a little bit of a brief kind of rundown of the tone of this presentation. A lot of you have known me for a while or have seen me do one of these before. I tend to make this pretty informal. What I like to do is kind of go through a conversation with the presentation slides. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I do have some slides for you. But what I don't want to do is just sort of mindlessly talk at you. So I encourage you, if you have a question, have a comment, please feel free, interrupt me, yell at me, put it in the chat, whatever the case may be, whatever you're most comfortable with, because chances are, if you have a question, somebody else in the presentation has a very similar question, or it may spur some communication from them. So just real quick, I know that we don't have not a ton of folks on camera, but I'm assuming that a lot of the attendees this morning are human service agencies, nonprofit agencies. Is there anybody that is not from one of those organizations? Excuse me. Feel free to yell at me if you are not. Okay, great. So I'm going to take that as some information there that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can kind of jump into the slides. I'll breeze through my own introduction that my team put on there for me. But from there, it'll be a nice, robust, hopefully informative conversation that can help y'all with your communication strategies. So give me just 1 second to share my screen and get us where we need to be. That was way easier than I anticipated. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So you're all sort of in a row, and I'm trying to move you around so that I can look at the slides as well. So awesome. Okay. So this is a title slide. Don't need to go any further than that. All right. Quick intro again. Jamie Van Pelt, there's a headshot. I've been in Tallahassee almost 10 years. The first 4 was as communications director and then chief of staff for Mayor Andrew Gillum. And then the past 5 plus have been in the private sector doing communications and PR and marketing consulting for lots of different folks, businesses, associations, nonprofits, healthcare, whole bunch of folks. Quick overview of what we're going to be covering today. Some goal setting, some audience identification, which you will learn is what I would describe as the most important thing that you can do with your communications plan is a good audience identification exercise. Message formation, which is what most people think of as a communications plan or a marketing strategy. And then an overall strategy section that we kind of talk about some high level things. Oops, excuse me. And all right, so before we get going, something that I tell my clients all the time is if you're considering undertaking some sort of robust campaign or some sort of plan, or we want to talk more, or we got to get our message tighter, you got to be committed to it. The one thing, my professional opinion, that will kill a marketing plan faster than anything else, it's not a bad message, it's not a faulty audience, it's impatience. Being impatient is a good way to never get the results you're looking for. Those results may not happen overnight. I'll be the first to tell you, these things take a lot of time. If you're looking for a quick fix, you're going to be paying for it. A scorched earth strategy means you essentially just Coca-Cola it and throw as much money as you possibly can at a million different billboards and a million different commercials until people can't help but think of, when they think of soda, Coca-Cola. So in marketing, patience and consistency are our heart and soul. Keep that in mind as we move forward. So first thing, goal setting. We cannot do anything, and I truly mean cannot do anything in marketing unless you have a specific and measurable set of goals. So what I tell folks is reach for the stars. That's fun, but it's illogical. So if you had a magic wand, start with that magic wand and say, if I could do anything, what would my goal be? Then you whittle it down with the realities of your situation. So 3 types of goals that I like to talk about are overall goals, that big sort of magic wand goal, long-term goals, and short-term goals. You decide what sorts of timelines you're looking at when you talk about that. You know better than anybody else, certainly more than a consultant, what your timelines need to be to fit your overall strategies and goals. Once they're locked in, hold yourself accountable. I mentioned a little bit earlier that the biggest thing that you could do to kill a marketing strategy is be inconsistent and impatient. So if you're not going to hold yourself accountable, you're not going to be consistent. So the goal setting piece that I would say is the most important part of this is that accountability factor. If you're not going to be willing to put those goals up in front of you and everybody else to look at every day, it's very hard to hold your feet to the fire. And then finally, don't be afraid to shift those goals. A lot of people talk about moving the goalposts as a sports analogy. And that means if something's not working, or if something comes up, or if something is some extraneous factor that you didn't consider originally, don't waste your resources by having blinders on. Keep your eyes on the goals, but also recognize that things may shift and things may change, and then your goals need to change with them. Now we're getting into, the meat and potatoes, audience identification. At my firm, we do things a little bit differently. A lot of folks will tell you, oh, start with your story. We got to set you apart with your story. That message that you're trying to convey is heavily, almost solely dependent on your audience. You guys are professionals in the nonprofit space. So you should know that you speak differently to donors than you do to volunteers. You speak differently to clients than you do to donors. You speak differently to different audiences. So if you're locked into one message, you're going to turn people off and ultimately miss the mark. Audience identification sounds very simple, but more often than not, it's wrong. This identification exercise has to be data-driven and informed by facts. Starts with 3 questions. They're very simple, but you'd be surprised at how few people actually go through these types of questions. 1, who do you think that you're currently talking to? Who are you actually talking to? And then who should you be talking to? And you identify those with data. So if you're not able to capture those demographic data and analyze them, chances are you're lighting money on fire. Because the problem comes in when you're looking at it and you think, man, how come my Facebook ads aren't clicking? How come my IG ads aren't clicking? How come I'm not getting people driven to my website? It's not necessarily your message is wrong. More often than not, it's your audience set that's wrong. The most important thing to me, and my clients know this because I beat it into their heads every day, constantly check your audience. Don't worry about your story first, worry about that audience first. Goes back to goal setting. Know who you're trying to get to, and then evaluate who you're actually getting to. Oftentimes, those things run tangential instead of parallel. Now I'm going to pause here and check if anybody has any questions, because a lot of times folks aren't used to seeing that slide. All right, seeing none. Keep it rolling. Message formation. This is the one that folks really like, right? This is where we get down into how do we say what we want to say about ourselves. Message formation starts with one question and one question only. Who are you and why are you here? Now, who are you is not what is your name. Who are you is when you wake up and when you're getting ready for the day, what's your value set? And why are you here is if you had to do something for free, what would that be and who would that serve? For nonprofits, who are you and why are you here is the ultimate driver of what you do. That's the heart of your message. That's the heart of your organizational message. Who are you and why are you here? Why do your supporters support you? Those folks that are in the trenches with you, that you know you can count on, why are they there? What keeps them there? Easiest way to find that out is to ask them. Everybody on this call has a list of folks that they know. Every time they reach out for something, they will get a response from these people, your champions. Why do they support you? If you had 10 seconds with a leaning yes, everybody know what a leaning yes is? Somebody that's probably going to support you, but hasn't actually come out and done it yet. If you had 10 seconds, what would you say? In the age of instant information, attention spans are doing this. Getting real short. Y'all can't, I don't even know if y'all can see me right now, but I'm messing with my hands and making a kind of a short motion. You got about 3 seconds to capture somebody's attention, but chances are if they're leaning yes, they'll give you 10. That concise nature is how you get folks in the door. That's what we're looking for. We need those people to give you more of their time and attention, and you do that with your first 10 seconds. If you had 10 seconds with a leaning yes, what would you say? Does anybody want to be brave and give me their 10-second, hey, will you support us, 10-second pitch?
Good
I'll tell you
morning.
what. Yeah, please.
Oh, this is Bridget Marshall with the Children's Home Society. I work at Sable Palm Elementary, a community partnership school. I am very new at this, but if I had 10 seconds to try to wrap everything up in a little bubble as to what this partnership does, I would say that a community partnership school bridges together high quality academics, healthcare, counseling, support, mentoring, and some other items, all where the students and their families can be comfortable and in their own community so that the students will thrive.
I love that, Ms. Marshall. That was fantastic. Thank you very, very much for
In a
that. Quick
nutshell.
question, can I follow up with you with a quick
Yes,
question?
yes.
What problem does your organization solve?
We try to fill in the gaps that meet the need of the students so that they can focus while they're in class, so they don't have to be concerned about toothaches or medical issues or anything of that nature, because we have a clinic right down the street to help in that area. We help there's a dental clinic right here in the school. We partner with many other agencies doing tutoring and mentoring to just try to meet students where they are, to help them to focus more on their schoolwork and not have other items that are taking their attention away from thriving or reaching their potential in the classroom.
Great. That's great. And then how can somebody that is not familiar with that organization, how can they help? What do you need from the community or from somebody who's leaning yes to support you?
Well, our support comes in just resources. Just as an example, we are partnered with Bond Community Health Center. They're the ones that created this dental clinic on campus. We actually take the kids to the dentist while they're in class. We've partnered with, for instance, Lively Tech Barber School. They actually have barbers come here and cut hair for the kids. We've partnered with FSU. They have a clinic down the street where a lot of the students don't have primary physicians. And so through this clinic, this medical facility, they have primary physicians, and they have health care right at their doorstep, so to speak. So just various resources to help families, because a lot of times the parents are just worried about keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
And so we can help in those other areas where they're not spending too much time trying to worry about.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is potentially partnerships with organizations that provide services, and then
Yes.
money, capital, resources.
Yes, a lot of in-kind resources.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of in-kind resources. We've partnered with some churches and some other organizations that provide clothing. We have a clothing closet for kids who come to school if their clothes are torn or ripped, shoes too small. We have shoes. We have a food pantry here on campus for the parents that they have access to. So they can actually come into this, we call it Murdoch's Market. They can actually come in here and shop for food.
That's fantastic. That's phenomenal. Thank you for what you do. Now, can I go through a quick exercise with you? Would that be okay?
Yes.
So I think that message is phenomenal. I think everybody can get behind that. How do we boil that down to a 10 to 12, I'll even stretch you to 15-second intro pitch to somebody that you want to support you? So what I need is problem that you solve and your call to action. Right? So those are Jamie Van Pelt's 2 elements to a great short pitch. The problem that you're solving and how I can help. What do you need from me? Right? So you said a lot right there, and a lot that was very important. That's once I'm in your office. When we're on the street or we're in the grocery store or whatever the case may be, we got to tighten that up. So how would you go about saying, I work at Sable Palm, we are doing this to solve this problem, and this is what we need?
Yeah. I
So
think
here's how I would start. If
okay.
I here's where I would start, I would say I work at Sable Palm, and we
Mm-hmm.
provide wraparound services for students who may not be receiving them otherwise, so that they can focus on school. Right? Is that what I heard
Right.
you say the first
Exactly.
time? And then what I would do if I was you was identify existing gaps that you currently have that you
Mm-hmm.
could potentially use.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about Dr. Robinson providing the dental care. You talked about your food pantry. You talked about these other things. What are you currently missing?
Um, what we're currently missing, I think we just have to work on getting parents more involved in taking an active role in what's going on, I think. Um, and it may be, and we know that there are some issues, transportation issues or transportation barriers. So just, I guess, something, I think, to focus more maybe on the parents and help them to understand the importance it is to be involved in taking, we can set up appointments for instance, for the medical clinic, but we cannot, the parent has to be there. And a lot of times the
Yeah.
parent mentions, I don't have a ride. I have to work, I can't be there. So I mean, just off the top of my head, and like I mentioned, I'm new in this, I'm just getting started.
Doing
Maybe
great.
just working with the clinic to maybe extend the hours so that the hours can be evening hours sometimes, a couple of days a week, to help the
Okay.
parents get there. As far as transportation issues, I know we're working on it. I think there's something in place where the parents do have free bus passes, but of course that doesn't help if they feel that they cannot leave work. So again, that goes
Right.
back to maybe just afternoon hours. Um, and I don't know, maybe just providing more services, because the issues that these parents are dealing with their jobs and not being able to get off the jobs and to do things or to participate, um, to have, just to see where they are with that, what would they like to see us doing that will help them to be
Yeah.
more involved in their kids' education and what's going on with their child. What else can we do that we're not seeing? I mean, actually talking to them, I suppose.
Mhm. How much contact do you have with those individuals, the parents of the kids that you serve?
We have now, my role as a wellness support coordinator, I just deal with the dental and the medical, but we do have a position here, the family and engagement community coordinator, and she is basically the first contact with the parents. So she's out front every morning as the parents are coming in. We have a program here called I Moms and I Dads, where we have the parents in once a month to talk about different things. Of course, it's just the same few parents over and over again, which is good because at least we have them. But she's out
Yeah.
front, she's attending different community events to try to just make herself known to the parents and to get to them, saying, what is it that you need? How can we help you and what you need? So just getting to know them, we're trying to just build trust with the parents now and trying to determine what it is that we can do to help them.
I love it. So it sounds like there are opportunities to identify where folks can pitch in and
Yes.
help out, not even necessarily from internal, right? From the
Yes.
folks that serve. So I think that all of that goes into that 10-second pitch. And the only thing that I would advise specifically to you, is just to keep it as tight as possible and focus on those two elements, right? And
Okay.
so I think you have a compelling message. It's just a matter of not overwhelming folks with that first pitch. Keep it nice and
Mhm.
tight. on those two elements.
Okay.
But thank you for your bravery.
Thank you. I know, right?
That was awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. Great
I'm
job.
still learning, still learning. Thank you.
You do it. Yeah. One thing that that you can count on with communications and marketing is that everybody's learning all the time. It's constantly changing, and as new TikTok trends jump up, there's no lack of learning at all times. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Barbara Goldstein, I see your hand up.
Hi, Jamie. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good, good. So I want to tell you, I love the point about leaning yes. How many times have we all come so close and we didn't make the leaning yes happen, right? So last week I had a donor and said, "Oh, thank you for reminding me about my pledge. How much was it supposed to be for?" So so I said, I said, "Hey, you said to me months ago $500," and I'm thinking, should I have added another zero? But it's like a half of a joke. But this is a good question, because how many times are we on the fence, right? Of that leaning moment of saying, what is the right time? Like, how do we know that time to make that next pitch or the next yes to make it happen? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely. And I'll jump in real quick, and then I kind of want to hear more from you, Barbara. But timing is so critical, right? And we were talking about it a little bit before we got started, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in future slides. But we're coming up on giving season, right? So November 20, whatever it is Giving Tuesday, right? And that is like the Super Bowl for a lot of the folks that are on this call. And so what you find is everybody, including my nonprofit clients, are going to be talking about, recurring gifts, re-up your donations, whatever the case may be, all at one time. And so if you can find a way to differentiate yourself beforehand, before we get to slamming each other up against the wall while everybody's trying to get the same thing at the same time, that's going to be key. But I would go a step further to say, the very next bullet after the 10-second pitch is be nauseatingly repetitive, right? And keep in mind, and I'll touch on this again later, we get in this habit of thinking that we're bothering people. And while I understand donor fatigue can be a thing, and I certainly experienced it in political fundraising when I was in politics, this is very different. You're not out there shaking people down for something that is an unworthy cause. You're out there trying to get support for a service that you're providing to the community. So don't forget that. But I would say, don't let people go. And what the repetitive point that I was making earlier is, Barbara and everybody else who's got a similar question, don't let folks forget their commitment to you. And it becomes difficult because you don't want to bother people, but you're not bothering them.
Okay, sorry for interrupting, but you're absolutely right, because I heard a while ago, there's like I don't know, it's like 7 times, people forget, people don't read all their emails. People are like, need to be reminded today because there's so much stimulation. So, but then you're right. It's like, how we don't want to get too nauseating, right?
Well, the problem is we think to ourselves that we are providing a negative experience if we reach out too much. Chances are we're not. And the statistics will say that we're not. And as long as you keep track of, which I'm sure we all do, open rates, CTRs, all that kind of stuff, specifically with, just to use an example, you'll see that as long as you don't take like a dive, you're not bothering people. They'll open your emails because they want to hear from you. And those reminders are critical. Just like me, I get emails all the time and I just forget things. So let people tell you when they don't want to hear from you anymore. But until
that's a good point. So you're right. So don't assume or don't think that you're bothering them by calling them 3 times. So the other flip side is going to be a challenge question, Jamie. I'm going to throw out another question. And I'm sorry if I'm taking up time, too much, more time. How do we all, this is a time management point also, because we don't have 25 hours in the day to context, to keep, you understand, to get this, to keep the ball sometimes moving. So I don't know if you ever are going to talk about, like, how do we all manage it as a team and not as just a sole person working on this, leaning yes or the giving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's actually on my next slide. Let me check my notes here real quick. Yeah, it is on my next slide. But what we find, especially with nonprofits and smaller teams that don't have unlimited budgets, is that everybody in the organization has to be on the same page when it comes to the message. It's
Right.
going to benefit you to train your entire team on exactly what to say if asked, or what to say when they're out in the community about what they do, about who they serve, about this 10-second pitch. It's very, very, very important that everybody can be a spokesperson for the organization, because you're exactly right. If you leave it up to one person, sure, one person could deal with the media, one person can hit send on the Facebook post or whatever it is. You want everybody to be equipped to answer questions about your organization and to provide information about what you do, because you can't be in every room. Nor
And
can.
what if one day I'm not here?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's why it's worth it to invest some time into getting your entire team on that same page. Because, Barbara, the truth is, there is no good answer to that question, because there aren't 25 hours in the day, and you don't have $1 million to hire a team of 10 to be talking for you at all times. So it's about leveraging the resources that you have internally, and then leveraging those supporters, right? Those trusted voices in the community that will go out there for you in rooms that you don't find yourself in and talk about the things that you do, right? So I see Josie from Elder Care Services. I'm on Josie's board, and what I try to do is, whenever I'm around new people, I try to work into the conversation, because I've bought into what that organization does. Just like every single one of you has champions within your organization that want to support in ways that we know that the organization just doesn't have the resources to do. So that's an easy ask for things like board members. That's an easy ask for donors. That's an easy ask for the folks that are volunteering for you. Hey, when you go to dinner, talk about it. When you're at an event, talk about it. And maybe that's a fluffy answer to your question, Barbara, but the fact of the matter is, there's no easy way to do that.
No, I know. I of course there is no one answer, and it was just a good, a good way to throw out some thoughts. Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you doing that, because it is worth discussing, because chances are there's a lot of folks sitting on this call with those exact same issues. So I appreciate you saying that.
One more last thing, and then we all, and I've learned, and I want to share this, really, because as much as we say when's the right moment for the leaning yes, there's always the right moment, because if you don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly right. Yeah, we can't be afraid of no. And you all are nonprofit warriors, so you've all gotten over that fear. But it can be very hindering to hear no time after time after time. But you're exactly right. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So that's kind of what I mean by that repetition and the consistency that I'll talk about here at the end. But just while we're kind of on point, moving down through this slide, when we talk about our organization, and a nonprofit leader told me this years and years ago, and she just scored a massive donation. Nobody wants to save a sinking ship. Too often we talk about sob stories, or, oh my gosh, we need this, or like, we're falling so short, or blah, blah, blah. Can't talk about yourself that way. Use the success to draw people in. I want to be a part of something that works. I don't want to be looked at to save something that's failing, right? Shift your mindset in that regard. And then finally, consistency over cuteness, right? Has anybody ever heard the Kit Kat jingle, "Give me a break"? We've all heard that a million times. "Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar." That's not the most successful marketing campaign of all time because of the jingle. That's the most successful marketing campaign of all time because they beat it into your head over and over and over and over and over again. The jingle is irrelevant. What's relevant is how many times I see you. Barbara brought up a great point. You have to see something 7 times for it to stick. And actually in today's that is absolutely true. But today I would advise it's closer to like 11 times because you're constantly seeing things, constantly stimulated, and your brain doesn't pick it up as well. So consistency of message, and also spelling consistency right on the presentation, but that's my fault, is absolutely critical. And I would say if you're going to make me choose between some sort of jingle or some sort of bumper sticker and an absolute consistency of message, it's consistency every single time. What they have to be able to recognize is you and what you do. Don't worry about getting your jingle stuck in their head unless your budget is unlimited. Consistency, consistency, consistency. All right. Now, let's get into a little bit of strategy. Anybody have any questions or thoughts before we move on? Great. All right, so this is kind of my last like meaty slide, and then we can have more of a little bit of conversation. So communication strategy, for better or worse, normally worse for nonprofit entities, is incredibly budget dependent. Keep in mind that communications and marketing, especially in the age of digital, is almost always pay to play, especially on things like Facebook and Instagram. If you're trying to use social media to get your message out there, the algorithm is forcing you to spend money. They do not want to get your message across because they want you to buy ads, period. So keep that in mind when you're putting forward your strategy. Number 2, ABLB, always be list building. Has anybody ever seen that movie Glengarry Glen Ross, ABC, Always Be Closing? ABLB. The list is your holy grail. And you all know that because you're all fundraisers. But what happens is we lose sight of capturing data. And that's how we get a stagnant, stale, non-performing list. You have to consistently be putting effort and resources into getting data to then push that message out. We talked about a little bit earlier, internally identify that spokesperson. It's oftentimes our communications director, marketing director, whatever it is, but everybody in a pinch needs to know the message. If they're asked about it, they have to be able to spit it out. They have to be able to get that message out there, because whoever's in the room with them, if they say, oh, well, reach out to this person, reach out to Jamie because he's the one that does our messaging for us. No, they have to be able to articulate your message in a pinch. So make sure that everybody's on the same page. Keep in mind, when you're putting forward your strategy, nonprofit communications is guerrilla warfare. It's fast, it's aggressive, and you have to pop up everywhere, especially at places that don't cost money. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. These communication strategies tend to be very budget dependent. If you can be a part of things that do not cost money and they're going to give you the opportunity to spread your message, you have to take advantage of that. Ego is our enemy. It's like Barbara and I were discussing earlier. You cannot let the fear of bothering people stand in your way. Pride is expensive. If you're not willing to stand there with your hand out and force somebody to tell you yes or no, you're not going to be successful. And then finally, when you're making that outreach, you're not bothering people. You're simply letting them know the important work you do and inviting them to join. Just like she said, they don't know if you don't tell them. The number one rule of marketing and communications, if you want somebody to know something, say it. Make no assumptions about what they know. Don't think that they've heard about you on TV or they saw you on Facebook because you guys ran an ad. Make no assumptions. Excuse me. When we were discussing with Miss Marshall earlier, Sable Palm has a great mission and they do incredible work, but it's complicated. And so if somebody is asking her what she does That is a difficult message to get across. But you have to be able to boil it down to something that's easy and consistent. Any questions or comments on general strategy points? And by the way, if you're thinking, and I kind of forgot to tee this up at the beginning, I'm not sitting here telling you, hey, on Monday, do a client spotlight on Facebook. On Tuesday, do a video of your team. On Wednesday, that's not what this is about. This presentation is about ways to think about how you go and spread your message to your audience, right? It's ways to put you in positions to be successful. Goal setting, audience identification, message formation, and overall communication strategy. These are points that you can go and take as general guidelines to then fill in those gaps using your team who does your communications and knows your audience well. So if you're looking at communication strategy and going, well, what time do I send my email and what's a great subject line and all that kind of stuff? That's not what this is. You know that better than I know that. What I know is these overall themes that make that message stick easier, faster, and more consistently. Because what I'm trying to do is help you turn your audience into your donors, into your volunteers, into those people that are going from, okay, we'll listen to what they say, to, okay, we'll get involved. That needs to be our goal. Any questions before I move on? All right, some miscellaneous points, then we'll get into some Q&A. Again, as I mentioned, social media. Everybody wants to be on social media, and for good reason. It's free, and you can get your message out there. But effective social media is expensive. You're able to track how you do things, how effectively your message performs if you put in a lot of money. But you can't put in a lot of money. So how do we overcome that? Asking those supporters, those folks, your champions, to share it. It's very simple, but nobody does it. You should send an email out to your board and your supporters and say, guys, we're about to post this major thing. Everybody needs to share it. The best way to organically grow social is to have people who are not people whose audience is not your same audience sharing your stuff. If you don't want to buy an ad, that is the only way to do it. PR. You notice I didn't talk a ton about PR today. PR is wildly underutilized. Partnerships with other organizations who need some goodwill are gold. Earned media, PR, events, all that kind of stuff is phenomenal. Oftentimes, when we're talking about nonprofits, we think that we don't have the budget for a big PR push, but you do, especially if you're able to identify and partner with for-profit businesses and associations and so forth that are looking for wins. What you can provide are great options for stories that stick, for people to look awesome, because you do great work and people want to be partners with you. It sounds simple, it sounds straightforward, but too often folks are not willing to do it, or simply unable to think about it when it's not right in front of them. PR needs to be a major part of your strategy. And as you look year over year, try to have a PR event at least once a quarter. Use your trusted voices. We talked about this a little bit earlier. It's one thing for a message to come from inside the house, right? From people who wear the name tag. It's a very different thing when trusted voices in the community are willing to go out there on your behalf and stake their reputation on the work that you do. If you're willing to do that, if you're willing to ask that, those things start to bring in the big dividends, the big time results that you're looking for. Finally, when in doubt, over communicate. Goes back to what Barbara and I were speaking about a little bit earlier. if you would if you would ask me, hey, should I blanket this every single day, or should I, maybe pull back and let people miss me a little bit? No, over communicate. We talked about, I was talking to Justin a little bit earlier about um, no press is bad press, or no, no communication is bad communication. As long as your message is tight, there's no such thing as over communicating. I would advise you to go through and do those exercises that I told you about a little bit earlier, or bring somebody on who can help you out. But once you get that message that's consistent and repeatable and concise, blast it out. When in doubt, over communicate. And finally, good communication is simple and consistent. I've said it a million times today, and I say it to clients every single day. Don't try to get too cute. Be simple, be consistent, and that's the best way to produce the results you're looking for. And I think, yeah, there it is. I think that's it. Okay. I know it was a lot. I know it was kind of fast. Any questions?
So Jay, I wanted to pull out something that you said, and we talk to people about it all the time, and that's, kind of having some brand ambassadors, some people out there talking up the organization. But can you speak to that a little bit more? Because I think that we miss that, right? Who's representing, who's speaking for you, because you should always have representation in the room. So if you can talk a little bit more about that, and maybe tying in that elevator speech, because we've all been in the room and you're like, wait a minute, the way they're describing it, that's not the organization we know.
Right. Yeah, it's a great point. And I think you're exactly right, LaShawn. It can't be overstated. And that is twofold, right? Internal and external. You have internal folks inside the house, the ones that wear the name tags, the one that you sit on Monday staff meetings with. And then you have your champions, the folks that are out there that are either giving you money or that are volunteering with you, or whatever the case may be. Maybe they're on your board. So you have two opportunities to make sure that your message is tight and in places that you're not, you don't actively have your finger on, right? So what I mean by that is they're not the ones whose email signature goes from your constant contact account. They're not the ones who are on the Facebook video. These are your folks that are affiliated with the organization, but are not directly speaking on behalf of it. So all that is to say, the first thing you need to do, LaShawn, to your point, is make sure that 10-second pitch for those leaning yes folks is understood rather by internal and external stakeholders, and then that they are encouraged to go out and give it. You don't want your people or folks affiliated with your organization to be afraid to speak on behalf of it. Now, not to the media. I'm not talking about popping off at the mouth or whatever the case may be to Jeff Burlew, but I am talking about when you're out in the community, talk about what you do. Be proud of what you do. Be confident in the work the organization does. And that comes from having a message that you know is correct and that you know is repeatable and is consistent. So recruiting folks from your board, recruiting your ambassadors via email, via text message, phone call, whatever, to say, hey, I'm not asking you for anything. This is not a fundraising call. This is simply to say, when you're out in the community, speak about us. Here's what we do. Here's 3 bullet points. Here's 10 seconds, whatever the case may be. Arm those folks to fight for you when you're not there. I see a hand. Yes, ma'am.
Greetings. Hi. My name is Mama Yada in the community, but I'm also known as Trishay. And I am the founder of Melanin Mothers Meet. I hope my picture can suffice for today because I cannot turn my camera on right now. First of all, I want to say thank you for this great presentation. It opened my eyes to a few more questions that I have. And the first question is, when it comes to content, obviously quality is great, but if if you're not tech savvy in the sense of, let's see, I know that a lot of content usually have, backgrounds like just putting a video out or just putting a picture out is, just kind of like, from what I'm seeing and experiencing, is more so low branding, and the more high branding is, having, flyer designs around your pictures, design around your videos. But then I also know that you mentioned consistency. Will the consistency match? I'm trying to see how I want to word my question. Will it matter what type of or how you present your content, versus, just putting a video out versus, having some type of background or design with the video? Does that make a difference in your results, even if both are consistent? I guess is my question.
Sure. Yeah. So I think that's, first of all, it's a great question. And thank you for asking it. The one thing that I would advise that you keep in mind is that no matter what, you're never not branding yourself. So as much as we all would like to take off our work hat or take off our board hat or whatever the case may be, you're never missing the opportunity to grow that brand. So the short answer to your question is, if you had a magic wand, sure, it may make a little bit of a difference, but it doesn't make enough of a difference to hold you back, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
if you have something that you want to say, if you have a piece of video, selfie video, straight to camera, whatever, or even a basic graphic, whatever the case may be, make sure your logo's on it and get it out
Mhm.
there. Don't let that hold you back from getting your message across, especially if you're confident that your message is tight and repeatable, right? Let your message what folks interact with, and less about, wow, look at the colors on that graphic, or that's a cool font, or
Right.
any of that. If it has your logo on it and it has a good message, go with it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Jamie, hi, it's me again. I have one more question. So when you said PR is underutilized,
Yeah.
what exactly would be a good example of that? Because there's always so much PR that can be happening. It's like, it's endless.
Yeah, and so I think you kind of gave me the first part of that answer, right? So when I say PR is underutilized, a lot of times people are trying to focus on things like social media, things like their email campaigns, and less on capitalizing on attention streams that folks are less likely to go after, right? So I'm talking about things like earned media, like being in the news, like writing op-eds, like partnering with other organizations to double your reach when you're trying to speak to your audience. So PR can be, how do I put this? Resource consuming, not necessarily in terms of dollars, but in terms of time and people power. Putting together an event takes a lot. And so people tend to shy away from it unless it's their like one big fundraiser or, one big push or whatever the case may be. But there are smaller, earned media type of events, press conferences, ways to plug in that folks do not take good enough advantage of, particularly in the nonprofit space, because you're typically underfunded, typically understaffed. And so I get that, but it's worth it to exploit some of the more creative ways to get out there that are not what we see all the time, which is Facebook ads, Instagram ads, email campaigns, so that you're getting legitimacy from avenues that are not the usual suspects, if that makes sense. And so when I say it's underutilized, of course, that's an opinion, but I do think that nonprofits have a special ability to wield their mission and the work that they do as something that becomes a really good story that a lot of people want to tell. And if you're willing to say, hey, I'm Josie from Elder Care Services, and I would love to partner with Bank of America to do XYZ, Bank of America then becomes somebody that it is in their best interest to also get your message out. Does that make sense? So you're creating buy-in from folks who would not normally be talking about what you do.
Thanks. That's good. That helps.
Sure. Exactly right. Yeah, Josie, that's exactly right. Like big wheels. Yep.
Or what we do is we partner with the Challenger Center because we show films there, and it's bringing in new people to the Challenger Center who might not have been there, and it's a great partnership.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Anything else? Oh, Jewel Brown. Real quick in the chat, do you think making information on website more concise is better? So websites are a little bit different. Because of things like SEO, repetition becomes the lifeblood of SEO, as those who have built a website know. You got to say over and over and over and over and over again what you do in order to shoot yourself up to Google or up the Google pages. But website branding is concise is good, but keep in mind that you want to say enough to where you're relevant if people are searching for the things that you provide. So I know that's kind of a sit on the fence answer, but web design is a whole nother presentation in and of itself. So I would say keep it concise, but don't lose sight of the fact that you need to say enough to stay relevant.
So I want to add one more thing because I'm just thinking, because we just came off of a big event 2 days ago. Okay.
Right.
And so everybody's different with what works for them. But I want to share something that we started recently that really has changed our whole donation. Is everything has now a QR code on it. So that QR code has really jumped our donations and our ability, and our donors can say, okay, I can go to my QR code. So I want to share that with everybody. Everybody, whenever you can, put a donation QR code on anything you have, and it will help a lot.
Yeah, Barbara, you're exactly right. Except my only caveat would be don't put it on your social media graphics, because like 88% of people engage with social media on their phone. You can't scan a QR code.
Well, yeah. So, but there's other ways to get that QR code, so it makes it easy to take care of the donation.
Yeah, you're right, Barbara. And lowering the barrier to entry for folks to engage with you is always a good idea. And a QR code is one of the easiest things to do to get people to do what you want them to do. So I certainly echo that. It's just funny. It's a bugaboo of mine when I'm scrolling, Instagram or whatever, and I see somebody with a QR code on something. I'm like, well, you can't. There's nothing I can do about it. So
no, you're absolutely right about that, and I forgot about that little challenge. But then you get a link to, then you create the link to take you to the donation area place. But any way to make it easy to make a donation happen is the best.
That's right. That's right. All right, it is 11 o'clock, almost 11:01. So if there are any last questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to give you the rest of your day back. Cool.
Well, thank you all for coming to this morning's workshop. Thank you, Jamie, for presenting your expertise and taking the time out of your day to share this with our membership. As we know, this information goes far with our organizations as they prepare for the new year, as they prepare for Giving Tuesday, as you brought up at the end of November. This information will definitely guide them to guiding their organization success to the next level, starting for the next couple of years. So thank you all for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your day. On behalf of the entire team, our Executive Director, Amber Artainen, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, LaShawn Gordon, myself, and our Admin Coordinator, Jamie Lynn Crosby, we thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you at our next workshop next month.